All right, so I'm currently on the phone with members of Advent, so I'm going to go ahead and give them the chance to introduce themselves.
Hey, I'm Anthony. I'm the vocalist. Also go by Spiz. So yeah, good. Yeah.
Yep, and I'm Joe. I play drums for Advents.
Awesome. Well, thanks for taking the time to talk to me today. So I always like to kind of start in the beginning of, how somebody found music. So why don't you kind of each take a turn, kind of just, describing your entry into music. What about it was important to you and kind of pulled you into it?
I'll start, I guess. Yeah. I guess for me it was my dad. My dad is a drummer. So he used like when I was younger, he used to play a lot in the garage of my grandmother's house. So I would hear him a lot, and then he used to like kind of put me on his lap and stuff, and that's kind of what got me wanting to like learn music. And he passed over his old drum kit. I forget what brand it was, but it was like a old like toy brand, but it was like it was a good kit, but um it was all broken down, like missing skins and whatnot. So I kind of taught myself how to play the drums on that, and that's kind of what I guess entered me into the whole like I guess it made me appreciate music to a different level to get me to where I am now. Doing music in a band with some cool dudes. But yeah, that's my answer. Good, cause
Yeah, I would say probably my dad as well. In the car growing up, it's probably like 3 or 4 years old in the backseat, and he would play bands like I don't know, like Oingo Boingo, Wallflowers, the Ramones, stuff like that. And I always kind of took to it. And then as I got older, I had a friend in middle school show me Metallica for the first time and bands like that. And then from there into high school and beyond, it just kind of took over for me. And I was always like an athletic kid growing up who played sports and stuff. And then once I hit like the age of 14 or so, everything started to pivot for me. And yeah, just haven't stopped since.
Okay, so both of you kind of describe having a really strong family connection to being interested in music. At what point do you think, you kind of described there that at a certain point a switch did flip that you wanted to start pursuing music. What do you think kind of was the event that caused that to happen?
I guess joining my first band was kind of what did it. For me, I was obviously because I was a drummer first and foremost in the beginning, and joining my first band kind of like I guess kind of made me appreciate it more, like playing live and all that stuff. So that was kind of a thing for me. But also, even as a vocalist, that first band kind of pushed me to also be a drummer and be a vocalist at the same time. So it kind of opened up a whole different like mindset on like music, and also being creative and writing my own original songs with them kind of helped. That was that pivot for me, at least. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if I had to narrow it down, I mean, growing up, like I remember being on vacation one year. We were at Universal Studios, and there was a band playing like outside somewhere there, and I just was fixated on the drummer the entire time. It was just like a cover band playing random stuff, and I was always kind of like enamored by the whole process of everything. And then that was when I was like, I guess somewhere in elementary or middle school. But then first time I saw Metallica once again, Madison Square Garden, I was like 14, and that was like the first real show I ever went to. And from that moment on, I was just like, how do I figure out, I want to do this. And since then, I'm 28 now. It's just been a process of the last 14 years trying to figure out how to do it. And it's a grind, but I think we've done some pretty cool stuff. I've done some pretty cool stuff aside from Advent. So just got to keep pushing, I guess.
Sure. Well, that kind of leads into my next question of, once you kind of did make that commitment to yourself that you were going to pursue it and figure it out, how many kind of iterations of a band do you think it took you to kind of find one that you felt comfortable and able to express yourself in?
Okay, Koza, you go first.
Serious bands, it only took a couple. I want to say like maybe 3 or 4. Growing up, I wasn't like the kid that had a bunch of bands in high school. I just jammed with a lot of people, and none of it really went anywhere as far as like gigs. I I used to sit in with friends of mine that were older than me when they had bar gigs. So like they would kind of bring me up and show me the ropes as like a 15-year-old in a bar, which was kind of cool. But other than that, it was just us like playing Slayer covers in my friend's spare bedroom on Friday nights.
Nice.
So that was like my figuring out how to play with people a lot of the time.
Okay.
And then I had a couple other bands, but I would say this is like my third or fourth quote unquote serious band. And I feel like this is where I'm kind of hitting what I feel most confident in, I guess I would say.
Sure.
Yeah. I think I'm not as much as Koza, but I mean, I've only been in, I think, 2 bands, and those 2 bands were relatively the same band, I guess, just with, removing one member from the equation. But I mean, I guess it was never really, all the bands I've been in were bands that I created. So I guess I never really had experience outside of my own bands, per se. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but I like to think it's a good thing. So at least I always able to have like my set, like my word, and in writing and all that stuff with the music. But definitely not as much as Koza. Definitely not much of an interesting response. But where we're at now with the band is this, as I tell them all the time, this is like my last like hoorah, because I'm not 20, I'm 31, so I'm just like, all right, like I'm gonna focus on this and put everything I got into this, and then hopefully it goes somewhere. And so far so good. We've been doing pretty good, so no complaints here. So where we're at, I'm happy. And afterwards, I'm not planning on joining any other band. So
okay. Well, before we get to Advance, I have one more question. Do either of you or have any consideration for like making your own music, like solo projects or anything like that?
I mean, me definitely not. I mean, I wouldn't mind like collabing with some other people and whatnot in the future, like just for fun. But solo stuff, I mean, I never really. I always feel like I always needed other people around me to. I mean, again, that's not necessarily true, but I always felt like I always done better with people around me who also had influence, and whatnot with helping create music. So I guess personally, no, but I guess you never really know. But I think if this band didn't work out, which pray to God it doesn't, pray to God it does. Sorry, it works out. If that's the case, you never know. Maybe I'll get bored one day and be like, let me just start writing my own stuff and whatnot. But I don't really see that as a possibility personally. But yeah, that's it.
Yeah. I've given it some thought over the years. Like before I joined the band I was in before this one, I had some like sampling pads at home that I kind of integrated with my kit for a little bit, and I was like, maybe I could come up with something that's a little outside the box and just play everything all at once. And it was a little bit, I don't know if it's something I'd actually see through. But I've had some ideas with that based on the fact, I mean, I listened to a lot of like noise music and some weird stuff. So I'm like, maybe I could try some of this at some point, but realistically, I don't know if it'll ever come to fruition. I also have this weird this weird dream in my head that I'll front like a hardcore band one day just for fun. But
that'd be
nice.
sick.
All right. Well, so let's talk about where you are now. Tell me about Advance. How did you guys all come together?
I guess started with our so initially Koza wasn't in the band from the true get-go. He was part of the band when we announced, but in the beginning it was just me and Seb, which is our one guitarist, and we approached our other guitarist, Kevin Chappie. He just left his own band that he was in for a few years. So Seb ended up asking him, he's like, hey, you want to like join a band? Like, we're free agents, you're a free agent. Like, let's see if we can get something going. So it started out with me, Seb, and Chappie, and then eventually we reached out to Joe through one of our friends. And then after that, our old bassist, who isn't our bassist anymore, Noor, we kind of found him. I think we found him on Facebook or Craigslist or something. But we also knew him. Well, we didn't know him, but we had friends associated with him because he was a big part of the, I guess, music scene, I guess, to some degree over here. So, or had a lot of contacts, to say at least. So yeah, that's kind of how we formed. It was kind of like a random thing we did and this was all during like right before COVID hit. So we had a lot of time to kind of stir with each other and and then make some music and whatnot. But Joe, if you want to add anything to that, feel free, please.
No, I mean, I think you hit everything. I think I joined late 2020, which was before anything was even out. So
yeah.
But I kind of knew Chappie through like the Jersey kind of like circuit scene, I guess you could call it. But I kind of came in fresh as like somebody that didn't really know anybody. So we've come a long way in the last couple of years, I'd say.
Okay. And so since it has been a couple of years, do you guys have material out there, or are you kind of taking a slow burn at it?
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, we have we started releasing, we've just been doing single by single because that's the way of the world now in 2023. But we have 5 songs out now. We started in 21, like September of 21, I guess was the first song, and we just put out our 5th song a couple weeks ago, actually. And the response has been great so far. I mean, people seem to be into it. Our listeners are going up. I think we're hitting the audience that we intended to hit. They're starting to compare us to a lot of bands it's like an honor to be compared to. And I think the stuff that we have coming out, we always joke like, oh, it's the best yet. But like, I really do think it's like, the next step for us, with people really finding out like what we're going for. And I think the songs will connect with them. So we're pretty excited.
Sure. And so is the strategy there slowly trickle out the singles while also doing live shows?
I mean, we don't really. So the thing is, we've been a band since 2020, but we've actually never played a live show yet. We've actually been relatively an online band for the last 2 years, just kind of focusing on marketing, online. And obviously, like Koza just said, we just hit 5 songs, so it wasn't like we had enough songs out to even like play a full set until like now. But yeah, I mean, it's going to continue as a trickle of single by single. This one, the one that we just released, wasn't part of an EP, but the ones after this will be part of an EP.
Sure. So building up like a collection of songs before you kind of release like a full length album kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, we're proud of like every song that we release. We kind of like, we try to like make, not try, but we make a story. There's a story behind each song, so we kind of like to highlight them, each release them and kind of match the content with it. And because to us every song's quality, so we're just like, let's lean into each song a little bit. Let's tell a little story about it. Most of our songs all have music videos, so like we release a single, like we go all out. So so that's something we've been doing since the beginning, and it's something that works. So for now, at least until if any opportunities pop up, it'll probably continue being this way for a while.
Sure, definitely. So since you've been working this project for a few years, and then both of you have a lot of experience beyond that, what are some of your favorite memories that stand out to you about participating in music?
Yeah, Koza, you go.
I mean, I would take it back to like I was saying about first discovering a lot of the bands that I really liked when I started playing, was just like, in high school, 14, 15, 16, just like on a Friday, like I couldn't wait to get out of school, obviously, like anybody, but then just to go over to my friend's house and just like jam on stuff like like horrible renditions of like Angel of Death and songs like that, where I'm like trying to figure out double bass like one step at a time. Like, God bless his mother for listening to that. But like just that camaraderie of like, we all just picked up our instruments and like, let's kind of see what happens, and then showing each other bands and just like stumbling through it and like having a dream to go somewhere with it one day. And then, some of those friends play more than others now and stuff, but like, I still look back to those times as like some of the greatest times in my life, honestly. And then as the years went on, just like sticking with it, and just like, there's so many ups and downs to this, and so many relationships that come and go because somebody's weird, or you can't tolerate this one dude anymore, and like bands fall apart. And to be honest, I forgot your original question at this point, but it's just like the constant grind of figuring it out, I guess, stands out to me the most.
Yeah, I think you hit the sentiment of the question for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of the sentiment of the question, I got lost in that. Can you give me that question one more time before I answer?
What are some of your like standout, motivational memories you have?
I guess I think the main one would be something, again, not really super similar to Koza's, but kind of similar. I don't know, like, I guess just coming home from like school and going in my basement and sweating, like I'm turning on the stereo as loud as I can, and just playing to like random songs, like a new CD I just burned and I popped in the CD player and start playing. Just playing as quickly and as efficiently as I can before my brother gets home or my mom gets home, before they start yelling at me for the drums. Not necessarily my mom, because my mom actually liked it. I shouldn't say that, because it reminded her, I guess, of my dad when she was younger, playing the drums like in the garage. But my brother hated it, so I'd have to rush playing that. But also, like, I guess sometimes my mom and my aunt would come down and like actually just sit down and just listen to me play, or my dad would come down and one day my dad was like, wait, because my dad came to a realization that I was better than him, and it annoyed him. He's like, wait a second. He's like, you can't play this song. And I was like, I forgot which song it was. I think it was a Metallica song. I think it was like I think it was Master Puppets or something like that. And I was playing it like this better than him, I guess. I was playing it like more aggressively than him. I was adding more things. He's like, that sounds way better. So I guess that's something that stands out. Just those memories of just being in that basement, just sweating my ass off, when having my parents there at times. Not all the time, but
very cool. Yeah, that's a good memory as well. All right. Well, where can people find Advents and check you guys out?
Again, Koza.
I mean, pretty much anywhere. We have the website is adventsband.com. Pretty much everywhere we're Advents Band. I think like Facebook's like Advents US or something. But if you just search us, like type in Advents Band or Metalcore or something, and we'll pop up.
But also on Spotify and all those other platforms.
And Spotify, yeah, streaming everywhere. I mean, it's pretty easy to find us.
Well, so I always like to give the people I'm interviewing the opportunity to put out their last word. So what's a message that each of you have that you want to throw out there?
Okay, Koza, I want to hear your message.
This is always so much pressure because it's like, what's one thing?
Follow your dream.
Yeah, so it's hard to avoid. You want to avoid the cliches, but the cliches are there for a reason, I guess. Yeah, I would say, like, if it gets discouraging and like, whether it's on your instrument or on something you're trying to push or whatever it is, it's like you're probably doing something right if it gets hard. So I would say in the moments where it gets hard, that's where you're being tested. Like, I teach drum lessons and I say this to my students all the time. I'm like, you wouldn't be in this room if you knew everything that I was giving you. So like, just kind of give it the time and patience and see it through. And you'll probably surprise yourself with what you can accomplish if you just like give it that due diligence, I guess.
Yeah, I think I don't. God, mine's not going to even be anywhere close. I'm trying to think of one. I'm trying to imagine myself having a child and looking down and like, listen, son, this is whatever. And I'm like trying to really think. I guess like in life, I guess having an outlet like music and such, like it's good to have an outlet in your life where you can focus all your negative energy. And I think music is something that lets you do that, rather it be just playing the instrument. It's like a very emotional, music's emotion. So it's just like, if you're ever feeling like, struggle and depression, if you don't do music, maybe pick up an instrument and try to learn. And like, also what Koza kind of just said about, if it gets hard, that usually means you're doing something right, So, if main message is, if you're having negative emotions, focus them into something positive, because negative emotions can be a positive thing if you know how to focus them. That's it. Done.